and welcome to another episode of Asexual, my Asexual Life. This is the place to be for education about asexuality, all things asexual. I share my own asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. If you haven't already subscribed, hit that great big subscribe button right here, right now. Please hit that bell icon so you get notified of every time I go live like now or post a new video. Give this video a thumbs up if you find the content useful, helpful, insightful in any way, shape or form, or you just want to give this channel some love. I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. So I want to ask you a question. Are you asexual and have you ever felt lonely because of your asexuality? If you have answered yes to this question, then this video is definitely for you. So I want you to stay tuned because in a moment I'm going to be revealing how to feel better if you're asexual and you're lonely. But first of all, if you didn't know who I am Sandra Bellamy, author of this awesome Asexual Perspectives 47 Asexual Stories book. It's real life stories. So if you haven't already got a copy, go and grab a copy from Amazon. Waterstones and Barnes & Noble also sell it. And I'm also the author of Fibromyalgia Self-Help Handbook, which is autobiographical account told in a superhero style about how to have less pain, more energy, and feel happier. Yes. And you can apply the techniques to your situation, even if you haven't got fibromyalgia, right? So most of it's still applicable. Really good fun read. Anyway, I'm going to crack on with the show. And like I said, if you're an asexual that feels lonely, this video is definitely for you. So I was recently in a group and I saw someone post that, they feel really lonely as an asexual person and they find life really difficult. And I think they were very, very brave in admitting this. So number one, if you want to feel better, is actually admitting that you do feel lonely and feeling okay about that. Because I feel as human beings, we have a tendency to be very self-critical and to feel down about ourselves and to feel negative about ourselves. And if we're saying, like we feel guilty or bad about, feeling so lonely, because this person said they felt pathetic feeling so lonely as an asexual person, we must learn to treat ourselves with some kindness and some loving words. This would be my first top tip to feel better. Because, it's no good hating ourselves because we feel lonely. It's not pathetic, right? As human beings, we need connection. We naturally need connection. Even people that are very introverted usually need some form of connection to actually feel better in some ways, right? Because connection is one of the 5 ways to well-being. So I used to be a peer trainer for the recovery learning community, which in the UK is part of the NHS National Health Service. And we used to help people to manage their mental health rather than say, oh, you've got to get rid of it. So it's all about empowering the person to live with their mental ill health and to actually manage it better so that they weren't feeling so bad, so that they could go on their life and they could still live as full a life as possible, right? And I was a peer trainer with lived experience of depression and anxiety. So I freed myself of depression in 2012. To cut a long story short, I had something happened last year which did set me back a bit, and I was recently diagnosed with basically a trauma condition, but I'm still here smiling about it. So what you've got to do is acknowledge anything that's going on for you and treat yourself with some tender loving care. It's very important. No one is pathetic for wanting that human connection. And like I said, when I was peer training for the recovery learning community, and we used to empower people to manage their mental health so it was better for them, it didn't have such adverse effects on them. One of the ways in which we encourage people to look after their well-being was connection. And that's what's known as one of the mental health 5 ways to well-being is connection. And that means connecting with people, whether that's online or in person. Obviously, in person's very important still because we do live in a very online world, but it's important to actually have human beings in close proximity to you, to be able to feel these people, to be able to hug them and stuff like that, and to feel their warmth. Obviously, if you're touch averse, you're not into that, but just to feel someone there in physical presence is still very important. That's why when places are opening up now, after being on lockdown for so long in 2021, people are flocking to cafes and to public places because they are longing for that human connection again. They're longing to touch someone. I'm not talking about in a sexual way, and cuddle someone, maybe, but to just give someone a hug, hello, goodbye, to just be not even touching them, to be in close proximity to someone. So, it's very vitally important that you give yourself lots of self talk, positive self talk, and understand that it's not pathetic to be lonely. Lots of people feel lonely, but they just don't want to admit it because they feel like if they admit something like that, it's wrong. And the fact, as a society, we think it's wrong to admit the fact we feel lonely because we feel disconnected from others or not connected in the ways we'd like to be, just shows what society kind of pushes us to do, and kind of how it twists us mentally sometimes into feeling that we should repress our emotions and should repress our feelings, when really, these repressiveness of feelings is doing us no good. It's unhealthy. So please just acknowledge truthfully, like this person did, but without the negative self-talk, that you feel lonely, and it's okay to feel lonely, right? Because you know people do need human connection, and it is critical to your well-being that you do connect with others, right? Even introverted people might not think they need other people at all, but usually they do need them in some way more than they realize, right? Because don't forget, if you push people away from you, if you push people away when you need someone, who's going to be there for you, right? So it's important that we form connections with others. So, number one, I want you to talk very positively, self talk. And if you are lonely, admit it and be okay with it. Be okay with the feeling that you are feeling like that. Don't repress it or suppress it and feel bad about it. It's not pathetic, it's human nature to feel that way, you know? And understand, number two, is try to connect with other people, particularly people who are like minded. Once you connect with other asexuals, you get a feeling of belonging, a feeling of validity, a feeling of a sense of place, a feeling like you belong in this world somewhere. And that's why it's so important to connect with like minded people. Now, asexuals are huge. There's a massive spectrum of all different types of asexuals, right? So we're not going to get on with every single other asexual person. There'll be asexuals that we get on tremendously with, and ones we don't, and ones that are kind of in the middle, right? So find out on your journey of asexuality, treat it like an adventure, and find out the different types of asexuals, that there are, by connecting with different asexuals, and then all over a sudden you'll kind of vibe with by connecting with different asexuals, and then all over a sudden you'll kind of vibe with some and less with others. When you start vibing with some, when you start resonating and relating to each other, you'll naturally build more and more of a rapport up, and you will actually usually want to speak to each other more and communicate with each other more. Probably see each other on video or maybe through phone, or some people just like texting. But it's vital that you're trying to connect with as many people as possible. Now, I appreciate you might not have asexuals on your doorstep, in which case you're going to have to start doing it online anyway, through messaging and stuff. Number three is, in regards to that, is be proactive, not reactive. So don't wait for everyone to come to you, to communicate with you, to start a conversation with you. You need to be going out and actually creating those conversations, being proactive about it, proactively seeking them out, right? So this can be on asexual dating sites such as ace-book.net. That's like a asexual social networking site and dating site, right? But because it's social networking, you don't have to date. You could just look for friends on it, right? But it's spelled ace with a dash or a hyphen, I think people call it. A dash, basically. So a line going across, ace dash book, so ace-book.net. And just look up ace book for asexuals, basically, and you should get it, right? And it's got lots of forum threads, and you can private message people for free, and it's really good to be on there. Obviously, asexuality.org, you might find that a welcoming community. Some people like being on there, some people don't. But that's got thousands of asexuals on asexuality.org. Not everyone who's on there is asexual, just to let you know. But sometimes that happens on asexual dating sites as well. But like I said, Acebook is kind of like for dating, but also for friendship as well. Now, asexualitic.com. At the moment in 2021, when I'm recording this, if you go on asexualitic.com, try to go to it, you might see a warning come up saying this site is not secure. I do not own this site. My website is asexualize.com. not asexualistic.com. But some people think I own asexualistic.com. I do not. Asexualistic.com is a dating website for asexuals. I think there's about over 43,000 members now. When I joined, there was about 5,000 or less. Right, so I'm a member from years ago, 2014. Now on asexualistic.com, it's actually where I found my asexual best friend, their life partner, right? So you can find people from that site for dating and relationships. I haven't found the right person for me. Yeah, I found my best friend, their person, right? Which is very important. So it does work, right? And and you can use it to form friendships as well. Now, you don't have to use it for dating, but it's more used for dating than acebook.net. And it's very important that, again, like I say, you're proactive. A lot of asexuals tend to be introverted and reactive, and they're waiting for people to message me, and then they're like lonely. I can't. No one wants to talk to me. No one cares. You have to go and actually reach out to other people, because if everyone's feeling the same way, that no one cares, no one's reaching out to me, no one's approaching me, if everyone feels like that, because mostly a lot of asexuals, for example, are introverted, no one will get anywhere. No one will actually make the first move. So you've got to make the first move and keep the conversations going and be proactive about this stuff, right? So, positive self-talk, connect with others. And when you do connect with others, make sure you are being proactive about it, not reactive. Don't wait for people to message you. Be at the forefront of messaging them, right? I've had people who I've connected with someone on Facebook, right? A guy. I'm not going to mention his name or where he lives or anything, but I will say he lives in the UK. That much I will say, right? And it's a place I could actually get to, and they could get to see me, right? But this person did post, that's all I'm revealing, but this person did post in a group to say they're really lonely, no one seems to like them, they haven't got any friends. So I approached them in the group, and then I private messaged them, became their friend, and after that, I had a few message conversations with them, and I was doing all the talking. They weren't doing much, and I'm like, it'd be nice if you said something back, and they're like, I'm just warming up, and then that was it. They've never spoke to me since. They like some of my posts, but they never spoke to me. Now, if someone's lonely, then why wouldn't they be creating conversations in messages and actually messaging people? Right? It doesn't make sense. So if you're a person who's lonely, you're posting groups saying no one cares about you, no one likes you, no one wants to be your friend, then someone friend requests you and tries to talk to you. You can't expect that person to then carry on the conversation all the time. You've got to engage back in conversation with them, right? So not only have you got to be proactive in approaching people, you've also got to have someone who's also giving you conversation back, which would be number 4. So 1 is about you giving conversation to them, number 3. Number 4 is about receiving conversation. Now, if you find that you're on the receiving end of people not actually speaking to you very much, then you've picked, or you come into communication with the person that's not going to be right for you in that way. It doesn't mean to say that guy, there's anything wrong with that guy, or there's anything wrong with me. It just means that obviously that type of friendship that I'd hoped for with him is not going to happen, right? For whatever reason, right? Whatever reason it is. And I know that this person's got difficulties, right? They made me aware of that before. So I take that into account. But, from my personal point of view, they haven't spoke to me since. That's, I can't, then they're not going to be a proper friend, are they? Going to be like an acquaintance friend, which is okay. They can check out my post. Maybe it gives them some comfort and they feel good about it, right? But you need to know that you need to be able to receive friendship, receive other people's love and care. And if those people are not supplying it to you, and they're not giving you anything in return for your commitment to being proactive and talking and messaging them and starting communication, try and keep them going, if they're not reciprocating, then you need to let them go. Either you let them go from being connected to you at all, or you just leave them be. You leave them be, and you just carry on life and looking for better quality friendships, people who really want to be your friend, people who will message you sometimes, not just you messaging them all the time. Because you don't want one-sided friendships, because then you are going to feel lonely. It's going to highlight your loneliness. You're going to be like, my God, I start connecting with these people and they all don't want to talk to me. Right? And then you're going to feel more lonely. Right? So if that happens, don't think it's down to you, that it's a problem with you. Usually it's the fact they've got issues themselves. and that you just aren't compatible friendship wise. Maybe they talked to you or saw the few messages and they just thought, you're not really my type of person, and that's okay. It doesn't make anyone wrong or bad. This happens in life, right? You need to find what I call your tribe. Find people who you resonate with, who care about you as much as you care about them, who you're giving and receiving and taking and giving, so it's give and take, receiving and giving out, basically. You're not the person who's always giving to other people. You're not the person who's always receiving from other people, right? It needs to be balanced, right? And then you can feel better about yourself and you can feel less lonely and happier. You have to understand, though, there are a proportion of people that will just not carry on talking to you, right? And you don't blame yourself for that. Don't think, oh, I'm rejected. It's so bad. It's awful. I'm never going to speak to anyone again. Because if you've got anxiety, you can start catastrophizing, thinking, I've tried it a few times. No one cared. I'm not going to bother. No one likes me. No one loves me. So just retreat into your shell even more, and then makes you feel more lonely. Don't do that. Understand it's not a problem with you. If they don't want to communicate with you anymore, that's fine. Just leave them be, and then go and find other person that will want to communicate with you, that will think you're living awesome for the person you are, and who'll love being in your company and really enjoy being around you. Don't start changing yourself or making yourself small or feeling bad about yourself just because some other person doesn't want to engage in conversation with you. Some of the people, they just have their own issues going on. They just can't do it. They too scared themselves. They got fears and insecurities and worries and doubts. Or like I said, they just might not resonate with you. And that's okay. Some people don't like me. Some people don't resonate with me. Other people really like me and think I'm amazing. You got two different types of people. I'm sure everywhere in between as well. Some people probably can't stand me. Other people are like, wow, she's incredible. I love speaking to her. She's really good and useful and gives expertise and she's incredible. I do get these type of incredible comments, so I know that. But I know, like, I get some people that aren't so nice. But I mean, personally, for the majority, for me, most people are really kind and nice to me the majority of the time, to be honest. Obviously, I get some trolls on this channel sometimes, in the past particularly. But, I don't expect everyone to like me. I know some people just won't like me because, I talk loudly and I'm very vibrant, energetic, bubbly, hyper person naturally. And it's just the type of person that they don't want. They want a peaceful, quiet tone life. And it's just not who I am. That's fine. If I don't make them happy, they should go and find other friends and other people and leave me be. That's healthy and right for them to do. So you have to understand that different types of personalities, different types of the way we communicate, different types of being is fine. You're not gonna find someone or some people are always going to be the same as you, or that aren't going to, how you would put it, reject you. But in terms of rejection, don't see it as rejection, just see it as they weren't right for you. But on the other flip side of that, get comfortable with rejection. So if you think I've been rejected, just think, wow, I've been rejected, which means that person is already out of my life and disqualify themselves from being my friend or being close to me. They've done me a favor. So if you're going to look at rejection, look at it as a positive way. God, that person disqualified themselves from my life. God, that person's let me move on quickly. The sooner people disqualify themselves from being your friend or being in contact with you, the better, because you don't want people who are just no good for you and you hanging on for them. The danger is when you lack self-worth. If you're lonely, you can lack self-worth. I'm not saying you do, but you can lack self-worth and you can clutch on to people with the shoestrings that they give you, because literally you feel like that's all you can get. You can only get a few little strings of people, like their time or the validity they give to you. You kind of like clutching at little tiny eggshells, like breadcrumbs, basically. And that's because you haven't got enough other people who care about you in life, and you don't care enough about yourself to be able to validate yourself and feel secure within yourself. Now, I have to say that a lot of people do feel some insecurity within themselves. No one is perfect. Some people do feel like they want external validation. It's quite common for that to happen. We have to try in life. Number 5 is validate ourselves as much as possible. So if we validate ourselves as much as possible and we actually care enough about ourselves, and we actually start loving ourselves, and we actually saying, yeah, I'm beautiful, I'm gorgeous, I'm me. Not everyone's going to like me, and that's okay. I'm not here to be liked by everyone. I'm here to love myself and to love openly and honestly and truthfully. And, either people will love me or care about me or like me for who I am, or they won't. But either way, it doesn't matter, because I'm still valid. I'm still good to be me. I still love being me. I still cherish being me. I still feel that I'm an important person. I still care about myself. I still want myself to do well. I'm still here for myself. I'm still loving me, right? So you need to validate yourself by all these things, by bringing your own self up, bringing your self worth up, feeling amazing and incredible in your own right, regardless of what anyone else says, thinks, or does, right? You need to internalize your awesomeness. You need to realize how incredible and amazing you are. And you need to all this awesomeness and incredibility to flow through you and to feel just so good. So good. Because you are who you are. And you need to, like I said, validate yourself. This means praising yourself, giving yourself lots of positive self-talk. And number 6 is focusing on things you really enjoy and love and filling your life up with that. Because when you fill your life up with things you love and enjoy, you're less likely to feel lonely because there's not such a void in your life. So fill your life up with hobbies and interests that really engross you, that you really feel attachment to those things that you love. Like maybe it's artwork, or maybe it's gardening, or maybe it's photography, or maybe it's walking. All these passions and hobbies and interests that light you up and feel good. Fill your life with those as much as possible, as often as possible, every single day of your life. Because feeling lonely, it often feels like there's some sort of void and something missing. So in order to stop looking for it elsewhere for other people, fill your own life up with as much stuff as makes you feel excited, energetic, vibrant, happy, creative, fulfilled, satisfied, achieved, all these kind of positive emotions. Fill your life up full of as much positive emotion stuff as possible, so that you feel like a whole being inside of yourself, so that therefore you don't feel the lack and the void and longing so much. I'm not saying you're going to not feel it at all, but I'm saying you're going to feel a hell of a lot less if you're focusing on yourself, your own dreams, your own passions, and you're actually actively doing it. Not just talking about it, saying, oh, I like photography, but never taking a picture. Not just saying I like artwork, but never actually doing any. Right? You have to proactively help yourself and do the things that you love, that light you up, that fill you with happiness, as many times a day as possible, each and every day, every single week of every single year. Fill your cup up as full as possible, so it's overflowing with happiness as much as possible. I'm not saying your life's going to be perfect. I'm not saying it's going to be good every single day and spot on. But what I'm saying is, by doing this, you'll feel less lonely and your life will feel better and improved dramatically, right? And so number 7, right? If you are an asexual person who is looking for a relationship and you're really, really struggling, I want you to know that I relate to you and I feel for you and I care about you. I'm not going to lie, it is hard the majority of time for an asexual person to find the love of their life. It doesn't mean to say it can't be done. I know asexuals who are in relationships with other asexuals and they are really, really happy together forever, right? So it does work, it can work. Some asexuals are partnered with sexuals forever as well, right? This doesn't have to be an asexual to asexual relationship, but the majority of people who are asexual prefer and are happier with another asexual relationship. So obviously, if you are looking for a relationship, like I said, go on asexualitic.com, but there is a warning there at the moment. The site's not secure. I do not own that site. It's not my responsibility, right? Asexualitic.com, right? And the reason this site is not secure is because they have not got an SSL certificate on their site, which is secured socket layer. I build my own websites without code, but I build them, so I know about this stuff. I actually wrote a book saying how to install a free SSL certificate on your WordPress website, which they should read because then they know how to do it. But basically, it costs a lot of money for companies to do that, so they haven't bothered doing it. So therefore, their site is not got a secure socket layer. So they're running like a site which is like old. because it's like, it's not got the secure layer of extra security, right? So it's at the person's own risk, but you can still click through and use it and get access to it, but you'll see the warning message because, but years ago, websites didn't have to have this secured socket layer. They didn't have to have this extra layer of protection or privacy, but now they do. In general, it's required for websites to have that, right? So if they haven't got it, that's what the warning message is about. But usually your computer system will say, do you still want to do this? Warning, there's a risk, and you can click through it and say yes. Obviously, unless you don't want to, right? Because it's at your own risk. This is not financial or legal advice. Always see a lawyer or other professional for that, right? Because I'm not qualified as an advisor in finances or anything like that, right? Or cybersecurity. So I always I have to do a disclaimer, right? But like if you're, there's something called Asexual Cupid, but it's not run by asexuals, and it belongs to a big, a big conglomerate, if you like, of other dating companies that aren't aimed at asexuals at all. So on the Asexual Cupid, you'll often see adverts for their other sexual sites that look like their actual person on the asexual site. You don't always notice it because their picture will come up on their profile. You can't always see it. So it's very, very important to look out for that and to realise that, that's what can happen. They kind of try and get you to their other sites. And obviously, as it's not made by asexuals, then you'll find there's quite a lot of sexual probably coming on there, or at least a lot of adverts anyway for sexual sites and stuff. So, but there's an asexual person who owns Acebook, and there's originally asexuals, I believe, behind asexualistic.com, but I don't know who owns that site. I used to know someone who did computer work for them, but I don't know who owns it, and they never told me. So yeah, but if you're going to be on traditional dating sites, traditional dating groups, traditional dating apps, you've got to understand as an asexual it's going to be a lot harder, but you need to be true to who you are, right? So even though it's difficult and everything, right, you have to be upfront and say, if you're a sex repulsed asexual, say you just don't want sex, and that's the truth. And you have to get people disqualified from that. Anyone who wants sex when you don't is automatically disqualified. That gets rid of a lot of the people, and you have to just see those people instead of like, oh, they rejected me, it's so bad, as the fact they disqualified from being with you because they're not worthy to be with you with your standards of not wanting sex, right? They're not, they're not worth your time, right? So you just use that as a one of your standards, and then move on, right? But you have to understand that it is harder when you are on dating sites, like Facebook dating. I went back on for a few days. I came off it again because I realized I wasn't over the last guy that I was interested in, a asexual guy. But even I get tempted to go back on there because it's very tempting. It's really nice to talk to other guys, especially when you're a romantic person. I think you have to cut yourself some slack, particularly if you're a romantic asexual, because a lot of us crave the physical touch, the physical intimacy, just without the sex. And so for us, if romantic asexuals, they have a harder time because they really desire that, and you can't just get it from friends. And obviously, a lot of friends that aren't asexual, particularly, they pair off, they get married, they move away, they might have kids, and you kind of lose that closeness maybe you have with them, that bond. Maybe, I don't know, the bond might not be as strong, but you kind of like, in any case, a lot of them move away and they're not in close proximity to you anymore, and so you kind of like feel like you're kind of losing that, and then that becomes a bit more lonely for you. So in that way, you need to get more people in your life, more friends. When someone's leaving your life as a friend, or they're going out of it, or they're just seeing you less, you then need to bring other friends in to make it up, if you know what I mean, so that you're not having this huge gap and void. But like I said, you need to love yourself, or if I didn't make it clear, you need to love yourself more than anything. So when other people aren't around, they're busy with their own lives, you are not there feeling really upset and lonely because you haven't got anyone else to be with you. Oh, hi, Jay. I've nearly finished this video now. It's lovely to see you. I'm coming towards the end of it. Thank you for the thumbs up. So yeah, so I've given about, I think that's the 8th reason now as to how to feel better. Oh, bless you. So yeah, so that was like, yeah, if like I said, if you're getting friends that leave your life, if you're asexual and you're getting your friends are like pairing up, they're going off, getting married, having kids, moving, you're gonna feel more lonely then. So in that case, you need to get more people as friends to kind of when people go out of your life as friends or don't see you as much, don't speak to you, then you get some more friends to come in, so that you're always got people to see. I have 3 best friends. Years ago, I just used to have 1 best friend, but now I think it's better to have more than 1 if you can, because or at least, because, then that you have other people you can go to, because sometimes friends are busy and you can't expect them to drop everything for you, and you might be feeling really lonely and lost at one point, but they're busy with their other friends or busy with projects or busy doing their own life. So it's very important that you have more friends, even if they're not all best friends. You have more friends so that you have more people to go to if you're not feeling so good. But you must remember to actually talk to them when you are feeling good as well, not just when you're not so good. Abby, so glad you are talking about this. Although I like to think I love myself and I'm independent, I struggle lately with loneliness. Oh, bless you. Yeah. I've just said ways to feel better. I don't know if you've heard the rest of it. But yeah, it's one I first said is it's important to acknowledge you feel lonely and to understand that it's okay to feel that way, because I saw someone in a group, a Facebook group, asexual group, the person said they felt pathetic because they feel lonely, and I just wanted you to know, and anyone else to know on this channel, that you're not pathetic and that person's not, because it's natural for people in life to need connection. It's one of the 5 ways to well-being, and if we are feeling disconnected, it will make us feel more lonely, and so connection is so important, whether that's through phone calls, texts, videos, connecting to other people. And it's very important to have positive self-talk around feeling lonely and to express that you feel lonely and not repress it and bottle it up, because suppressed emotions, they just end up coming out as trauma years later. And so it's very important to say, oh, I'm feeling really lonely right now. Like, what would make me feel better? And obviously I've gone through the things like, like obviously like making friends be proactive about it rather than reactive. So don't just wait for people to message you or to become friends with you. Go out into groups and forums, and obviously if looking for a relationship, dating sites, and approach other people. Don't wait for them to approach you, because there's so many introverts in the asexual community that a lot of them are just like scared to reach out. But if everyone keeps thinking that, no one actually takes any action or does anything. So I was saying about reaching out to people is really, really important. And then for 3 and 4, I was saying number 3 is to make sure that you are giving, but also giving conversations, creating conversations. But 3, then on the other flip side of that, 4 is to make sure you're receiving. So once you get into creating some connections, make sure you are receiving, equally, chat from them as well. You don't want to carry on a conversation where a person literally isn't carrying on talking to you, and they're just like you're doing all the work, because that will again make you feel more lonely, because you'll feel like someone doesn't really care about you. J Star, I feel like I'm being exposed. Feel like you're being exposed. What do you mean? Feel like you're being exposed? I'm not sure what you mean by that. So I'm not sure what you mean by that, but yeah, so it's really important, that if you're creating connections with people, the introvert thing, the majority of asexuals are introverted. So I'm extrovert, but nearly all my friends are introverted. And on asexualitic.com, for example, the majority on there don't approach each other, and they're in forums complaining that no one's actually talking to them, but admitting that they're introverted and therefore they don't actually reach out and talk to anyone. Right? So you can see the problem. If someone sat there saying, no one's contacting me, no one's communicating with me, no one's approaching me, no one cares, why should people care if you're not giving them a reason to care, if you're not reaching out to them, if you're not talking to them, if you're not creating conversations with them, you see? So even if people are introverted, you have to push through that introversion. You have to, be bold and brave and create connections with people, which means, actually approaching other people, popping in someone's inbox, saying, hi, I saw you like this hobby or that interest. I saw you in an asexual group talking about this. Would you like to be friends? Or even getting in Facebook groups and commenting on posts and then saying, can I private message you? Like loves artwork, for example. I really love your artwork. I love artwork myself. Can we have a chat, in private message? Love to get to know you better and stuff like this, But like people, like, even if someone's a certain personality type, doesn't mean to say that you can't adapt. So, for example, I know I didn't realise to a few years ago. Hi, no one. I didn't realise to a few years ago that that a lot of people in the business world, so for example, a lot of entrepreneurs are actually introverted, right? And so these people speak on stage and they're introverted, but they have trained themselves in the skills to being able to talk in public despite being quite shy at times and introverted when they're off the stage, because they have done it for their business. They have done it to progress in life. They have done it to develop themselves. I'm an extrovert, but I do have introverted tendencies. I spend a lot of time, days on my own at home, not actually physically seeing anyone, but I do have people I talk to online, usually in messaging. I had a friend round today, yesterday now, because it's gone to the next day. So they're still helping with my food shopping, because if you don't know, I broke my ankle in April and it's still recovering. So they're still helping with my food shopping twice a week. So I see someone twice a week at the moment. But the rest of the time I'm at home on my own, because I live on my own. I've lived on my own for years, right? And I spend a lot of time working on projects on my own, spending hours on my own, But like I said, it's important to know that, that one of the ways to feel better is actually communicating with other people, like putting yourself out there. Years ago, I used to be a much more introverted person naturally. I pushed myself on purpose to be extrovert because I wasn't happy with the introverted life. I was actually very lonely. Up to the age of 10, I was very shy. I think I had one friend at school who wasn't a real friend. And then I had someone who I knew outside of school who was supposed to be a really good friend as well. That was it. But actually, at the age of 10 was when I split up friends with the person in school because they weren't very nice to me. And so I didn't really have any friends in school. So I was on my own, and that was really lonely time. But, it was what it was. But growing up, I wasn't very good in groups, right? Still one-to-one. I still prefer one-to-one now. I'm more comfortable with it in general, one-to-one talking to people. But years ago, I used to think no one cared about me, no one loved me, no one would care where I lived or died, because I used to have depression, and I hated my life really years ago. But as I moved to the city, I felt better because I'm actually extroverted, and so the countryside didn't suit my personality. But also, I realised that I was shutting myself off from the world by retreating and thinking no one cares about me. So I was actually pulling myself back from someone, like people. I wasn't going out there. So I trained myself to be able to go and talk to people and go out and make myself heard and go out and approach people. And so, one of the ways of stopping feeling lonely is to actually go and approach people. Right, you have to be proactive. You can't be reactive all the time, because reaction is not an effective relationship or way of communicating. You can't just be in reactive mode all the time. Or if someone messaged me, I'll reply to them. It's not how friendship works. Friendship is a two-way thing. No one. It's good to be alone, but not always. Okay, so I'm always alone. I have like 3 friends online. Can't spell disconnected from society without disco. Disco's cool. Well, 3 friends online is still valid, right? I mean, those 3 friends are still important. We have to understand and appreciate the friends we do have, because some people don't have any. I run 6 asexual groups, and there's some people who don't have any friends. They say they have no friends at all. And so, but I have gone into this conversation about there was a guy who said in an asexual group, not one of the groups that I run, that they hadn't got any friends and no one liked them. And then I friend requested them. I started a conversation in the group, then friend requested them. And then we had some messages, but I was the one doing all the question asking to them pretty much. And then that was it. They haven't messaged me since, right? You cannot have a friendship with someone who doesn't actually message back and actually proactively message you sometimes. You shouldn't be the person who's always messaging. But similarly, you shouldn't be the person who's overreacting. Because if you're always reacting, you're a person kind of taking from the other person all the time. The other person's having to do the work all the time. And then they'll get fed up in the end because you can't have a relationship like that. You can't, a relationship or friendship is a two-way thing. You have to go and instigate messages, you have to go and create messages, you have to go and speak to people, and then they have to do that to you. If they care about you enough, they will do it. If they don't, then they'll stop doing it, right? Because you're not that important to them. No one. I don't have friends, but everyone loves me. Interesting. That's good. If you think it's good. So, but I mean, I would say no one love. I would say not no one, like your name. I said no one has everyone loving them. If everyone loves someone, it means that they're not being true to who they are, usually, because you can't please everyone. I mean, you know what I mean? I'm not here to please everyone in life. There's going to be people who don't love me or don't like me. That's fine. If you're being loved by everyone, you're probably trying to be a people pleaser because you're trying to keep everyone happy to love you because no one can have everyone loving them. They just can't. You can get on well with people. You can have lots of people love you. But there's going to be someone that doesn't love you in the world. Do you know what I mean? J-Star, I get lonely at things like school. I don't really have anyone that knows me like that. I'm gay and that. Right, okay. Yeah, I mean, it is difficult being asexual, you know, it is harder because we aren't like the general population, which is why it's much better if you can to connect with people who are like-minded, who are part of the community they are. So for example, like in terms of being gay, if you're part of, you know, if you're asexual, then connect with other asexuals, particularly other gay asexuals. Or some people don't like the term gay asexual because, you know, gay people aren't asexual usually, but some people call themselves gay asexuals if they're homoromantic, for example. But if not, you know, connect with people in the LGBT plus community or LGBT, you know, and you know, so that you have some people who you can understand and who understand you and you can relate to, you know. So go in groups and in forums and start seeing what people post or go through the members and see if you resonate with any people's personal profiles and then friend request them and try and start a conversation. Because if no one starts a conversation, then no one's starting a conversation. You have to, like I said, be proactive, even if it's difficult. Because if you want to be less lonely, then you need to go out and put yourself out there. The problem with me, I'm afraid to have friends. Right, okay. I mean, why are you afraid to have friends? You know? You know, if you're afraid to have people who are afraid to have friends are usually the people that need them the most. And you push people away because you have fears and insecurities. I'm not saying the fears and insecurities are wrong. I'm just saying, you know, when lots of people have fears and insecurities and we let it hold us back. So even though it's difficult, I would encourage you to still try, you know? And like I said earlier, if you weren't watching earlier, like I said earlier about rejection, don't think of rejection. If you're thinking of rejection, don't think of it as a bad thing. Think of it as a good thing because they've disqualified themselves from being in a friendship or relationship with you, depending on what you're looking for, right? So look at rejection as a disqualification process that they're not worth being in your life or your time or your energy if they automatically disqualify themselves. You want people that are going to disqualify themselves quickly. Because even though it might hurt a little bit at the time, it might feel a bit weird and strange, it's better they do that as quick as possible so you can move on to finding someone who is compatible for a friend or relationship with you, depending on where you want friendship or relationship, right? If we just talk about friendship, right? You know, you need to be able to move on, not waste your time having breadcrumbs with someone who doesn't really care about you, right? It's not going to help you. You're going to feel more lonely. I'm afraid to mess it up and make them hate me. I don't know. I'm friends. I'm scared from what happened in the future. Sorry, the keyboard is messed up. I'm scared of fake friends. Well, yeah, I mean, there are, like I said, there are people who who will maybe stop talking to you and stuff like that, but then in that case you just let them go from your life. You have to still hold value in you as a person, so that if someone stops messaging you suddenly, which some people do unfortunately, then you have to realize you just have to let them go from your life, and they weren't meant to stay in your life. I've had a person who was an Indian guy, for example, friend in this case, not a romantic partner or romantic interest. I had an Indian guy, this is going back months ago now, and we were really close, and he was subscribed to his channel. We were really close, but he doesn't message me anymore. And so that's all over. But we were close at the time and it was great, and I just have to appreciate the time we did have together and then realize we're not suitable to be friends anymore. The fake friends go with time, exactly. It's hard to get a read on them. So maybe I should have done a video about fake friends. No one, do you have any? Right. So basically, how do you tell if someone is a real friend or a fake friend? Sometimes it is with time, but sometimes you can tell it quickly, because if you're a person that's asking that person all the questions, and say your first week or so, if they're still messaging you come the week, then that's great. But in order to have a true friendship, you should be messaging them, they should be messaging you. You should be instigating some messages. They should be instigating some messages. You should be asking them questions. They should be asking you questions. This is how you form a good friendship, right? If the other person isn't bothering to instigate any messages with you, if they are not bothering to talk to you anymore, if they are not asking you questions about yourself, they're not really interested in you, right? Or maybe they're just so engrossed in their own life and their own issues, they are not able to give you the friendship you need, because they are too withdrawn in their own head. Some people who are depressed, because I've been depressed in the past, think in their own head all the time. They don't think about outside their head because they're in a depressive state, right? So you've got to understand there's lots of factors to take into consideration when you're trying to be friends with someone. If a person's really depressed, their brain isn't going to be thinking in the same way as someone who is okay, feeling okay in general, maybe up and down, but not the same as them, J-Star, I'm depressed. So in order to have a better friendship, we need to be actually actively pursuing friendships and actively communicating with people. And we need to not let our fears control us, but push through our fears and do things in spite of fear, so that we make progress in our life and it leads us to a better life for us and less loneliness, because it's really, really important that if you feel lonely, that you do something about it, right? Like I said, like hobbies, interests, things you love, all that type of thing should be filling your life up a heck of a lot. Because once you keep doing stuff you love over and over again, you'll feel less lonely, because your life will be filled with joy, and you'll be like thinking, oh, but if I had a partner now, then, or if I had a friend now, I'd actually be thinking, I can't finish this project off that's really exciting. I don't have time to do this thing I love because I'm too busy speaking to someone, right? So there are advantages of not having too many friends or not speaking to too many people too often. There are some advantages to that, but you equally need to be making sure that if you have got friendships in your life, that you're nurturing them. If you've got a friendship now, ask yourself questions like, what is good about that friendship? Right? Ask your friends that you've currently got, if you've got any friends, ask your friends what they like about your friendship. Therefore, you'll know those things are good to be able to make friends with other people, so that you don't feel so lonely. Ask the person, what things do you like about me? What things do you like about a friendship? What do you find good about the friendship? What do you find, interesting? You can ask them as well how you think it could be improved if you want. If you're brave enough to ask that, But you've got to, in order to make progress in your life, you have to get out of your comfort zone. People in life who don't want to stagnate, who don't want to stay in the same situation, who don't want to stay lonely, have to be proactive and actually make things happen to change the situation, because no one can change it for you. You have to ultimately do it yourself. No one can control you, no one can force you, no one can push you. You have to be able to say, hey, I'm fed up with this loneliness. I'm going to do something about it now, right? It's difficult if you're wanting a relationship, like I said, no one. You should let the thinking that make you depressed. So yeah, so like my ex years ago used to have ADHD, but he wasn't very good with it. But there's other people that have ADHD, and you can still find someone for to relate to. So yeah, but yeah, like no one says you need to try new things and speak to new people, because nothing will change unless you change something. If your life is the same all the time, it's because you haven't changed anything. So you need to create change in your life. A thing that, because I have anxiety condition, generalized anxiety disorder, and one of the things I've always hated a lot of my life previously to being able to manage it better was the fact that of change. I couldn't stand change. It made me really frightened and scared. And I used to just want to stay in life and everything to stay the same and everything to be as I wanted it to be and everything to just not change. But the world evolves, people change, life changes whether we like it or not. And by having the mindset of not doing anything about it actually is worse. So that when change is thrust upon us, it's like, oh my God, I can't deal with it because I'm not used to it. I don't know what to do. And I don't want this to happen. And it happens whether you like it or not. And so your life feels totally out of control. You can get depressed and really anxious and stressed then. And you're like, oh my God, right? What's gone on? Right? So in order to prevent that from happening, you need to make change happen for you rather than it happening to you. So that you're actively, proactively going out there and saying, hey, I'm lonely right now. What can I do about this? Okay, so I need to focus on myself, validate myself, put more time and energy and effort into things that I love, that I enjoy, that fill my cup up, that make me happy, that fill my life up with lots of happiness and fun times with myself. Like plowing many more energies into my hobbies, ambitions, goals, and dreams. But also you take time out to connect with others, new people, right? If the current situations, you haven't got enough friends or you're feeling lonely, you need to make some new friends, right? Let who hate you hate you. Just be who you are and let who hate you hate you. Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously, like if you change, in your life, you should change for yourself, right? I've changed myself because I used to be very shy and introverted years ago, and I changed myself to an extrovert, which I naturally am anyway now, because I wasn't happy being introverted. It was a miserable life. It was a very lonely life for me, because I wouldn't really go and speak to people, new people. I wouldn't really easily make friends at all. I wouldn't want to talk to people in groups. I wouldn't want to put myself out there. I wouldn't want to approach people. I would think no one cares, so what's the point, right? But that attitude wasn't good because I was pushing society away. I was pushing people away. I was putting distance between me and other people and not realizing that it's okay to go and make new friendships. It's okay to approach people. It's okay to talk to others. And to feel better about myself. Once you start feeling better about yourself and start loving yourself and seeing your own value and worth and caring how lovely you are, then you can more easily make friends. But basically, if you are saying to yourself that if you know you've got problems like issues that you need to work on, then you need to work on them, right? If you know there's something about your personality or the way you are in life that really you are not happy with about yourself, then you need to change it. So people should still change themselves, but they should do it because they see their problem with themselves, not because someone else told them it's a problem. So you should find friends and people that resonate with you, that are like-minded, that make you feel good about yourself, validate yourself in some way. But also, most importantly, is you should validate yourself and not need it externally from other people. But if you're going to get friends, you want people to resonate with you. You want people who understand you, people who are like-minded, right? So therefore, it's more effortless to be able to just be you and not worry about whether people like you or don't like you and stuff, right? But when you're making new friends, when you're making new friends, you're not going to know if they like you or not like you, maybe straight away. But sometimes you will. You'll send a few messages to someone, and you won't hear from them again. Doesn't mean to say they don't like you necessarily. It just means to say that they, whatever's going on in their life or for them, that you're not right for them as a close friend at that time, you know? Because, you know, they don't want to keep communication going with you. And all you do is think, okay, leave them alone, leave them be, and then you get on with finding some other friend. You don't waste your life and time on someone who doesn't have like their time for you and doesn't value your worth. You give people a fair shot. You know, you talk to them, message them, communicate with them, but they have to be giving something back to you. And if they're not, then you just don't bother. You know, if they're not responding to you, they're not keeping the conversation going. And say it's one conversation and you've said goodnight to each other, for example, then you don't hear from them again. Or you're having a conversation and you're just answering all the questions all the time to them. And it's like, you know, it's like getting blood out of a stone. It's like, you know, like it's so hard going. You know, that's not really going to be a proper friendship because you can't do that. You know, it shouldn't be, friends should be draining you. They should be lighting you up and making you feel good. That's your vibe. It's like morning for me. Just woke up not long ago. Don't care about who likes you and who hates you. Yeah. So, but you know, you need to just be who you are and care about yourself and love yourself for who you are no matter what. But if there's parts of you that you don't like, then you need to change yourself and work on yourself, you know? And you know, be the best person you can be, you know? And don't shut people off, you know, approach people, talk to new people. I made a new friend in the last few weeks. And I get on really well with them. We've got quite a lot in common, actually. They're aromantic. So I'm really hyper romantic and they're aromantic. They're really intelligent, really nice person to talk to. But we both get busy with stuff. So we can't always be messaging each other all the time. But when we do message, it can go on for ages because we kind of get engrossed in talking to each other. And that's a friend that's come in my life recently. But I'm glad they've come in because they're really nice to talk to. But we can't message each other all the time because we have our own projects to do and stuff. So it's all about getting balance, you know, it's about getting balance between your passions and hobbies and interests. So you always have a center. So basically, you know, friends can come and go in your life, right? For whatever reason, they might move, they might, you know, they might move, they might go away for marriage, go away for job, go away for college, go away for uni. So things might change, right? And so you need to make sure that you have enough hobbies and interests and things of your own that if some people do start disappearing from your life, you're not thinking, God, it's so empty, I've got nothing in it. You've always got something going on that you can focus on for you. That if people start disappearing on you, it's not as big a deal because you've got things to focus on that you love for you, if that makes sense. Jay, I have a girlfriend. She's not demi-romantic and she's not asexual, but it's okay. Oh, you have a girlfriend? Well, that's good. So do you still feel lonely even though you've got a girlfriend? Or do you feel okay with it? You know? Because like years ago when I used to be depressed, I used to feel lonely even if I was in a room full of people. It's because I wasn't connecting with those people. I wasn't actually engaged in conversation with them. Recently, not long ago. Oh, you're not sure yet if you feel. Oh. So you're demi-romantic and asexual. I think you told me that, didn't you, the other day? She calls you a lot. Well, that's lovely. Do you call them a lot as well and message them and make sure you're equally giving them time? Yes, sir. Oh, that's amazing. I'm really pleased for you. That's really, really good. It's really, really good. Yeah. You miss her sometimes, so that's important, isn't it? Missing someone's not the same as being lonely. You know what I mean? You can miss it as natural to miss someone if you love them and care about them. It's not the same as being lonely as in you've got a void in your life. Um, you know, it's you know, but obviously you could feel like if you, for example, if you've been on a date with them or you've seen them in person, then you could feel a little bit like well, you'd feel like you miss them and you wish they were there with you, you know? Because you care about them, you want to see more of them, you want them in your life more. It's like I miss her, but when I'm with her, I feel lonely, but not so much. Oh, that's very strange. That's really weird. It's like I miss her, but when I'm with her, I feel lonely, but not so much. Is that because she's not asexual and she's not demi-romantic, so maybe you feel like you're not connected to her emotionally as much as you could be? Is that why you feel lonely, do you think? Um, you don't know. Okay. Maybe you've just gotta give it time if it's only recently. Maybe you've gotta give it time, because, probably. Yeah, I mean, for me, personally, when I've tried to connect with sexuals in the past, heterosexual guys, I have never ever felt the same connection as I do, even with my asexual friends. My asexual friends, I'm more connected emotionally to them, closer to them than I ever was emotionally to my exes and when I was with heterosexual guys in relationships years ago. I feel closer emotionally to my bestest friends than I did, well, particularly my asexual best friend, than I did with any of my exes. I'm not romantic with my best asexual friend, by the way. They've got their partner. I found their partner asexualitic for them, like I said earlier. But I just feel like, I've got an emotional connection with them. And also with all my friends. I mean, one of my, like with my other best friend, I've got three best friends. So one, my best friend's asexual. The other one is into guys. So they're kind of like uh they're gender fluid and they're into guys, but they're cis male, so they could kind of be gay, but not fully because they're gender fluid. Um, so yeah, it's an interesting one. And then I've got a heterosexual best friend as well, who's female. But the heterosexual best friend, we don't see each other that much, and she doesn't really speak to me that much in between seeing each other. So maybe like I video chatted her, I think it was the first time in 2 months a few weeks ago. Um, but in terms of like, for example, a relationship, like in the past, I haven't been able to connect emotionally so much um with with sexual guys. It's been more with asexual people. Um, and people, like my best friend who's gender fluid, they originally were in the asexual community before they found out their full sexual orientation. So they thought they were asexual, but it's difficult because they're asexually attracted to women, but sexually attracted to guys, but they didn't know that at the time. Um, so yeah, they identify as sexual now, not asexual anymore. Um, so yeah, that's so they're kind of like but gender fluid. So but I'm very emotionally connected to them because we were very close when they thought they were asexual at the time before they realized they really like guys. So yeah, that's been really, really interesting. So, they don't have to be asexual, I guess, in terms of my best friend, but that person is like asexually attracted to women, so they kind of like still got an asexual connection with them in some way, if you know what I mean. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. Because I think that in if I'm looking back in my past, I think the lack of emotional connection made me feel lonely with some of those people in the past because I hadn't got the bond that I wanted to have with them, so I couldn't connect to them in a spiritual way and I couldn't connect to them in a deep way that I really wanted to. It's like something was a bit missing. And I want that in a relationship. If I do get into a romantic relationship, I want it so that I'm really deeply emotionally connected to that person. It's very scary though doing that because you really you have to open your heart, and that could be the problem. It could be the fact that your not heart's not fully open, so that person can't emotionally connect with you despite the fact they're not asexual. Because two people need to have their hearts open in order to emotionally connect with each other and be willing to receive and give and be in that scary vulnerable place. Relationships are very vulnerable, and in that way you can feel a bit lonely as well because you can feel like, oh my god, I'm like not literally naked unless you are, but naked as in vulnerable. I'm so vulnerable right now, and that can be very scary. You can put all walls and I'm not saying you're doing this, but it's a possibility because I don't know you and I don't know your situation, you know? How do you open up your heart? I mean, obviously, if you're just starting out, you'd be a little bit more cautious, maybe, but opening up your heart is being honest, you know, like, have you told that person you miss them? If this person is calling you all the time, they're really into you. Have you opened up and said, look, I really miss you. I really miss you, because opening your heart is telling them how you feel about them, being vulnerable, being open, saying, hey, I think I thought about you today. Hey, I really missed you today. I love hearing your voice. It's all about opening your heart. It's about sharing your feelings and emotions with that person, regardless of whether they reciprocate or not, as well. You have to open your heart and tell them your truth, whether they reciprocate it back or not. So you know, you want them to because you're in a relationship with them, right? But you have to be able to do that openly without any expectation of the other person reciprocating, without any need for them to. Obviously, if they don't feel the same way back, then you would move on. But you know, like, actually opening yourself up can make you really vulnerable. Some people don't like doing it in the beginning because they're more cautious. They'll only give a little bits of information away about themselves. But then, you know, by doing that, sometimes the other person can feel like a wall, can feel like a wall's like you've got barriers up and they can't fully connect to you. And so, you know, like, I personally do open up a lot. I get hurt, I do. I kind of got used to it by now. It's not easy. But I would rather be open and honest and being able to feel that emotional connection and to be able to feel love and caringness, have that experience or open to that experience, and close myself off in scaredness and fear, being fearful, because the other person can feel it. And if you're going to give a relationship a chance, you need to be able to open up and be vulnerable and be honest about how you feel and share emotions. How you emotionally connect with someone is sharing how you feel about them. And sharing how you feel and your emotions. That's how you emotionally connect. Those are the two main ingredients for emotional connection to someone. Is sharing how you feel, and particularly how you feel about them and your emotions for them. For example, like, I really feel so warm when you give me a call on the phone, for example. I really love the way you expressed yourself in that moment. You know, if you're talking like this to a person, it's going to be like, they're going to feel it. You're going to emotionally, you're going to instigate and activate their emotions. When you instigate and activate their emotions, they feel more emotionally connected to you. When they can open up and be honest without being judged by you, they will automatically connect to you more emotionally. When you are judging someone, they will start to shut off towards you and be less open with you. I've tried this in my own life. Sometimes I've stopped myself. Like, I realized there was a situation. I'm not. I don't want to go into it because it's a bit personal. But I realised I was being too judgmental in a scenario recently. I haven't told the person this. I just realised it about myself and how I felt. So I realised, I was thinking, what is the problem here? What's the difficulty? Why is this person kind of reacting differently towards me? What's changed? And instead of, you know, blaming the other person or thinking it's the other person's fault, which I don't like to do, I like to look inwards as well. It depends on the situation, but I like to look inwards and think, what's gone on? I mean, that person had you know, that person had some changes going on as well. But I'm like, what's going on? And I'm like, oh, I was feeling a sense that they were feeling that I was judging them, even though they didn't say that. And I'm like, you need to stop judging them. I wasn't doing it to be horrible. I really cared. Um, but it came across as being, I wanted to help, but it came across as being too judgy. So what I did was I just thought, oh, you're being too judgmental. So I stopped it. I'm just like, you've got to stop it. And so in interactions later on, I just automatically said in my head, don't judge. Just don't judge this person. Just don't do it. Just stop doing it. Just be there in the moment with them. Don't judge it. Don't try to do things that you can't do. Don't try to help if it's not being helpful. Just listen, be there for them, and know that it's okay just for them to express themselves. Sometimes that's all we need. Sometimes people don't want to be have advice or to have help. Their help is just being there for them, being a listening ear, being empathetic, understanding them without judgment or trying to find solutions. Some people don't want you to find solutions for them. They need more praise and validation and less judgment for who they are in their situation. So that was something that I learned about me. I have to analyze myself, and then the situation rapidly changed around to being much better again. And so I know that pretty much I was right. I was being too judgmental. I didn't know it for a while. I just didn't. And then I started to sense it because I was trying to put myself in the other person's position with the feeling that I was on the receiving end of. And I'm like, I think the person thinks I'm judging them when I'm not meaning to. But I think that's how they feel. So I just stop doing what I think is causing them to feel like that. I just stopped doing it. I just stopped doing it. And yeah, it just all went really good. It just all changed around completely because I changed myself. See, sometimes it's not about other people changing. It's actually about changing ourselves. And so that way that we can bond and connect to that person more, and they open up to us more. Because if a person feels judged, I don't like admitting that, but it's the truth. I have to admit I'm not perfect. I didn't notice. It's something I crept up on me. I wasn't meaning to be. I was being really well intentioned. It wasn't like I was being horrible to this person or anything. I was actually trying to really help them, but it came across as judgmental instead. And so I realized that about myself, and I just stopped being that way. And then it just dramatically, there was a huge improvement, and just things went really well then. Um, with the other person, it was just like completely flipped round for the better. And so I'm like, oh, thank God I found out that the problem was me. I mean, the whole problem wasn't me. They had problems, but the problem with the way I was being with in that scenario just wasn't helpful for them, which was creating a problem then in the friendship. So I'm like, oh, sugar, I need to do something about it. So we have to be very aware. So, you have to be, when you're being open, it's all about opening up how you feel and opening up vulnerably to someone, but hopefully hoping that they will understand that and they won't push you away. Sometimes in a relationship, in traditional dating, for example, traditional dating, right? Particularly how traditional dating. So I'm like an asexual dating relationship coach. But if you talk about traditional dating, they will say, don't say you miss them. Don't say all this stuff that you feel about them too quickly because it'll push them away. They'll run away. Right. So you don't want to be saying, I really need you right now. You're so, I need you in my life. I need you every 5 minutes. That's not how you need to be, because that'll just scare them off. Right. But by the same token, if you sharing your feelings, being open and vulnerable at the beginning scares them off. So just expressing, saying, I really miss you, I really care about you, my feelings are getting stronger for you. If that type of thing, which is fine to say, if that type of thing frightens them off and pushes them away, they're not the right person for you. Because it will scare the wrong person away. They'll think, oh, sugar, I can't handle this. It's too adult. It's too much of a proper relationship. The person really cares about me. I can't deal with it. And it might be because of their own fears and insecurities. They might have had commitment issues, or had someone who said they'd be committed to them, then went and cheated on them. And so anytime someone gets close to them, they feel that they can't trust that person and what they say. So they immediately revolt and pull back and go the other way and run off. But then that's up to them. If they run away from you, if they can't handle a serious committed relationship that you want, if that's what you want in the future, which I presume you do, then let them go out of your life. You don't want to come on strong, as in creepy strong, like I'm sort of stalking you online, like I'm checking your Facebook and I'm monitoring everything you do and I've got to be in your life all the time. That's not the type of person you need to be. You need to want them in your life, care about them, but respect the fact they got their own life and they have their own privacy. And but you need to be able to be open and expressing your emotions and say, like start opening up, saying, hey, I miss you. Like I was riding my bike today and I was just thinking about you. This type of thing. This makes them emotionally connected to you and feeling good about the connection with you. Right. And the more you open up to someone, if they're right person for you to be in their life, they'll open up to you as well, and if they really like you as much as you like them, and they're not running some old fearful patterns from their childhood or something, where they get close to someone and have to run away, which some people still do in adulthood, but they're no good to be in a relationship with, then they'll come closer towards you by being open, But how we develop an emotional connection is by expressing our emotions and expressing how we feel about someone. Because emotions are all about feelings usually. How you feel about someone, how you feel about a moment, even by explaining what makes you passionate and what makes you happy in life, you're kind of opening up. You're saying, hey, this is me. This is how I am. You're being vulnerable. You're opening up how you are in personality wise. And if this person doesn't like it, then they'll run a mile. And that's okay, because you don't want to carry on a relationship 3 months, 6 months, a year down the line and be with the wrong person. You want to be able to disqualify those people that are wrong for you in the beginning. You don't want them to be hanging on for months on end just to find out, oh, I've emotionally opened up to them like 6 months later, and now I've emotionally opened up to them. They can't handle it. They're running off now. It's 6 months later when I'm attached to them so much, So you want to be able to just express yourself. You don't have to necessarily do it all straight away at once, but just say, oh, I thought about you today. I felt, I was thinking I miss you, and see how that person responds. Test the water. It's like, oh, really? You miss me? Oh, that feels so good. If you start saying you miss them and then they start being quiet on you and don't say anything to that, then they're not receptive to that type of thing. They're probably not going to be the right person for you. If it scares simple stuff like that scares them away. In order to have a serious, committed adult relationship, people have to be able to talk through feelings and emotions and tough stuff. If they're not able to do that in the beginning, that's not going to change down the line. And they're not being able to give you the fulfilling, satisfying, deep emotional connection that you want. There are some guys, for example, stereotypical guys, they're very alpha male, right? And they're so alpha male that they can't emotionally connect to women. If you're talking about male, female gender roles, they can't emotionally connect to women like the woman really needs, because they're too alpha male. They're too much in male mode, in their masculinity. So they're too much business orientated, work orientated, getting the money in, being the provider, and they can't open him up so emotionally. So there's always, even if they're with this person, the person may be good at money, being a money provider, being financially secure, having a house and a home for them, being able to do stuff for the person, being able to take action, being a leader in the life, but unless that female can emotionally connect with that guy, and the guy shows some more feminine traits, some vulnerability, there'll always be some type of loneliness in that relationship, because it'll be like disconnect. They're a little bit out of reach in that way. And so what you need to end up with a situation is you've got two people whose hearts are basically facing each other, and you're able to vulnerably come towards each other, so that you are having this emotional connection with no barriers, no walls up. You are just literally caring and loving each other. People are disconnected because they're not emotionally connected to the other person. And by sharing your secrets, that's a form of intimacy. So there's other ways of having intimacy besides sex, right? The more intimate you are with someone, the more you open up to that person, they're more like they're going to be your friend or a relationship, right? So, you can be intimate by just sharing secrets. You can do that even with your friends. The more you share your secrets with your friends, the more they'll trust you, usually. The more they'll want to talk to you, because they know that you keep their secret secret. You have to keep their secret secret. I know a lot of secrets. Even though I say a lot on this channel, I still hold people's secrets. A lot of secrets, right? Because it's their business and they've confided in me. So I have to do that, right? It's what I need to do. It's the right thing to do. And I want them to trust me, and I'm very trustworthy. So, you've got to be able to be vulnerable, but also know, like, I was vulnerable. Like, there was an Indian asexual guy, over a month ago now, nearly 6 weeks ago. And I thought he was my soulmate, and I was really feeling love feelings for this guy. And he said as well about being soulmates, but we can't be together. This is what he told me at the time, but at the end of the day, he's left my life, and it's okay, because he wasn't obviously the right guy that I thought. I made a mistake, but I didn't make the mistake in sense I needed to meet him, because now I'm pursuing my career a lot. I'm pursuing my goals, passion, dreams much more than I was ever before. So in a way, it wasn't wrong. It wasn't a mistake, because it needed to happen in order for me to see something about myself that I couldn't see. And that was the fact I pursued this asexual in in my I didn't know who my asexual Indian soulmate was. I still believe I've got an Indian asexual soulmate, by the way. I haven't given up on that idea. But for 7 years, I was searching for this person that I didn't know who they were. It's like I knew them in a past life, if you believe in spiritual reincarnation, stuff like that. Some people think that's too woo-woo, but that's what I believe, right? So for 7 years, I was searching for this person who I didn't know who they were. And when they came into my life, this person, I automatically thought it was them, because all my emotions of love for 7 years for a guy I'd never met before in my life, or even, like been like in contact with, they went to this guy. And that was very difficult to be able to go from, we really got on well initially, both felt feelings for each other very strongly, very quickly. But yeah, it didn't work out, because, I found out through talking to him that he hadn't even thought seriously about a relationship. You can't have a serious, committed relationship with someone if you haven't actually thought seriously about a relationship and what you want. I didn't realise at the time, at the beginning, I thought of the conversation that he had, because he said, "Oh, you're pretty much exactly what I've been looking for all my life." If that's true, then they would know automatically what they've been looking for. But then later on, he revealed he hasn't really thought about it, which is very contradictory, and there was quite a lot of contradictions. So I'm not going to go into it. It is what it is. Wish him the best of luck. Hope he's happy in his life. That's great. Wasn't right for me to be with him. That's okay. Whatever the reason for the contradictions, that's fine, right? But it happened. So, but the wrong person will go away from your life. They'll be too scared. They won't feel comfortable to them in the end. They won't stay in your life because they're not right for you. So you have to understand that it's okay to let those people go, even if it hurts. And I was very vulnerable with him. I always told him from the beginning, like he originally said to me, my feelings for him. And if they're not, but they were, the horrible thing for me is a lot of the time I felt they were reciprocated, but not always, or not in the end, obviously they weren't. But anyway, it's okay if someone doesn't reciprocate. If you're open and honest, like the person who's wrong will be chased away by that. They'll be so scared and frightened, not necessarily because I'm wrong for them or they're wrong for me if they thought about it, but they're wrong for me and I'm wrong for them in that moment, because for whatever reason it scares them. It might be because they've got past issues going on, but it doesn't matter what the issues are. We're not right for each other, because the right person would not be scared away. The right person would want to commit to a relationship. The right person would be thinking, God, this is an opportunity. If you've got a person who's come into life thinking, oh, to approach a relationship like this is going to be really tough, but in a bad way. So not this is going to be really tough, it's going to be challenging. I'm going to relish the challenge and I'm going to step up to the plate. Someone's like, oh, it's too much of a challenge. It's too much hard work. Instead of thinking about relationship as being where you grow together, thinking, oh, it's gonna stop me having a life. It's going to cut me off from my friends. Or I mean, you should never cut people off from their friends in a relationship, right? But at the same time, it should never happen. You always keep your friends, right? You don't let anyone shut your friends off, and you always keep your friends. But having said that, you don't act like you're single still when you're in a relationship. You know what I mean? You have to give time to that person. So if you're seeing like your friends 7 days a week, you've got to say, hey, I need some time now to spend with my partner, Like you're not going to be able to see your friends 7 days a week and be in a serious committed relationship and see a serious committed relationship person. Like some of the time, unless you were seeing them all with your friends all the time, which you wouldn't want to do because you want alone time, right? So you've got to understand that if you're vulnerable, open and honest, it doesn't mean to say that that person is going to reciprocate or that person can deal with that or that person is going to be able to accept that. But being vulnerable, open and honest is not about what the other person does in that way. It's about what you do. And if they don't give you that back eventually, then they don't reciprocate, you will feel lonely because you'll feel like disconnect. You'll be like, I'm giving, they're not giving me anything back. Right? So you'll want them to give you stuff back, but you have to not expect it from them. And if it doesn't happen, then you know that person's likely not going to be the right person. Obviously, you talk about it first. You don't just go, oh, I'm going to go off. You talk about it and say, hey, I've been sharing my feelings with you. my thoughts and emotions. And I noticed that you haven't been doing the same. Like, I was wondering if there's any particular reason for that. And they might say, oh, well, when I was a kid, I showed my feelings to my parents, and I was slammed down for it, and I was told to go to my room before being too emotional. I was punished, and if that's a behavior they learned as a kid, then they're going to take it through to adulthood. Now you'd have to say to them stuff like, oh, okay, well, I understand it must be very difficult for you. I want you to know that I'm not your parents, and that I want you to share your feelings with me, and that I'm not going to be like them. I want you to share and express your feelings and feel comfortable around them. So I want to hear them. I love to know them. It's very important, and this is how you kind of get around it. There are some people that just have too many issues going on in their own life and their own persona that they need to sort out because they're not suitable to be in a relationship with you right now or forever. So there's a lot of things going on in relationships, but in order to not feel so lonely in a relationship, you need to open up, be vulnerable, in order to emotionally connect with that person. That person needs to do that to you as well. If they're not prepared to open up to you and be honest and start, it don't have to be in the beginning, right? In the beginning, some people are more cautious. They don't want to just jump into anything. You got to take time to get to know each other, little snippets. When you start talking to friends about secrets, you don't just blurt every single secret out, usually. You'll tell them a little secret, like, oh, I wanted to share a secret with you. Maybe you tell them something that if it got out to the public, it wouldn't be that big a deal, but you don't usually tell many people. So you share that type of thing with them and see how they react and see if they can keep that secret first. You err on the side of caution. And then you might, and like if you're sharing your feelings, you might just say like, oh, I was thinking about you the other day and I was thinking about I miss you. And you might just be like, you're sharing that stuff a little bit at a time rather than saying, oh God, I've been thinking about you for 5 hours. You might just say, oh, I was thinking about you today. I missed you. Just thought you'd like to know, that type of thing. So it's more casual, more laid back, not so full on. And then obviously you might, but if a person can't, down the line, if the person can't stand you being full on and that's your personality, then they're not right for you. I'm very expressionate. I'm very romantic, very emotional. And, I think to myself, if a guy's really scared off about that in the beginning, they're not my guy. Right? Because that's the way I naturally am. If they can't handle that, if they can't appreciate and think, my God, I've got Sandra loving me, Sandra missing me, Sandra missing my kisses or missing just spending time talking to me, and she's really into me, I'm feeling so awesome. If they're not feeling good about that, if they're feeling negative towards that and don't want that type of person, I'm not right for them, they're not right for me. So, it's better to be out of a relationship and be on your own than be in a friendship or relationship where you actually feel like you're doing all the work or that you're cut off from them and that you're disconnected emotionally. You have to try and work out what the problem is. Is it you? Is it them? Or both? What the issues are going on? Communicate, try and work things out. But if not, move on. Like I said, I realized that I was being judgmental with one of my friends, and I'm like, oh, I didn't realize I was trying to be helpful, but then I could feel it popped in my head that I'm feeling like they're feeling like I'm judging them. That's not my intention, but that's how. And as soon as I reversed my behavior and stopped doing the behavior that gave them that impression, everything was just so much better. Everything was just so much better, like much better than I expected, right? I was just kind of like, okay, this is not going as well as I thought it would. What's going on? So we have to like look at our own behavior, not just other people's, and analyze the situation and how we're being. But if some situations change for some reason, you need to discuss that and find out what's going on, and is it you, is it them, or whatever. But always be open to being vulnerable and sharing your emotions, thoughts, and feelings. And if the other person doesn't reciprocate, that's okay, right? If they're not going to give you that reciprocation that you'll need in the end, you just have to move on, because you don't want to be in a relationship but be lonely. I used to be in a crowd full of people sometimes but feel so lonely because I had no one to relate to, no one who I resonated with, no one that was on my wavelength. I felt completely alienated and like an alien from the world because no one understood me, and I couldn't relate to anyone. No, if you don't have anyone who relates to you, you have no people who are like-minded than you, and you have no people who understand you. There's a complete disconnect there, because it's like I'm on my own. You feel being lonely a lot of the time is linked to the fact you're on your own, as in no one understands you, no one understands your needs, no one's actually giving you what you need, and people are kind of like you're feeling like you're cut off from them because you're not getting your needs met, whether that's in a friendship or relationship. That could be a relationship with your family. It doesn't have to, like it could be like your siblings aren't actually talking to you. They're just treating you like oh, pretty much ignoring you or something, that or just treating you like a piece of the furniture. So it can be all types of dynamics. But you have to just think to yourself, why am I feeling lonely? Why am I feeling a disconnect? What would make me feel better? Would it make me feel better having friends, having a relationship? But obviously you can't go to a relationship just because you're lonely, because that is a really bad idea. If you go to a relationship just because you're lonely, you'll end up needing that person in a very codependent way. So you'll rely on them for your needs being met, to be loved, to feel validated, to feel secure all the time. And if you're not around them or with them, you'll feel bad about yourself. You don't want to be doing that. You want to be as strong a person as possible, love your life, love yourself as much as possible before you get into a relationship with that person, and not do it because you're lonely, because that isn't a reason to get into a relationship. You want to do it because you're coming from a place of strength and wanting someone who's got a genuine connection with you in your life. I have to go. Sorry, I might be back if you're on later. I'm going to go too now because I've been on here for an hour and a half. But I wish you the best of luck in your relationship, J-Star. Let me know how it goes. I hope you found this useful, helpful, insight. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that bell icon to get notified of every time I go live. Lots of love. Thanks, J-Star, for being here. And thanks for No One as well. They were here earlier as well. And yeah, J-Star and No One, appreciate you. Lots of love. Bye. Take care. Bye. Thank you to you as well. Bye. Nice to see you.